Hello, my name is Ed Frawley. I'm going to do a video here on the difference between Dogtra remote collars and e-collar technology remote collars. We sell a lot of remote collars. We only sell the top of the line remote collars. We won't sell these really cheap collars that come in from overseas. It comes down to common sense. You get what you pay for. And we just don't want to get involved with that. I bought my first remote collar in 1978, so I've kind of lived with the good, the bad, and the ugly of remote collars, and that's why we only sell the top of the line ones. So my IT people have helped me take the information and put it into a short little 5 or 6 minute video that explains the difference between Dogtra and e-collar technology, and I think if you can see that, you can determine what remote collar brand you want to go and buy. And then if you have any questions, you can always call Leerburg. And the ladies that work for me, they understand these collars and they understand the features of the collars.
All right, let's talk about one of the biggest debates in the dog training world, Dogtra versus Educator. You've probably heard the names, right? One's known for being tough as nails, the professional's choice. The other is all about humane, innovative tech. So, which one is it? We're going to break it all down, look at the philosophies, the features, everything, so you can figure out what's right for you.
Because look, what we're all after is that amazing connection with our dog. We want clear, reliable communication, especially when they're off leash and, a squirrel or another dog comes into the picture. It's all about having that confidence in your communication.
But man, when you start looking, it gets confusing fast. You've got all these different models and features. So which tool is actually right for you? It's a huge question. And the answer isn't just about specs on a box. It's about your dog, your training philosophy, and what you're trying to achieve together.
So that's exactly what we're going to do today. We're breaking down two of the absolute biggest names in the game, Dogtra and Educator. We're putting them side by side, feature for feature, so you can really see what makes each one tick. Okay, but first things first, we got to clear the air about something really important. When people hear e-collar, a lot of them still think shock collar. And we need to talk about how far we've come, because these modern tools, they're a whole different animal.
Seriously, the evolution here is just massive. Think about it. In the 70s, you had these, let's call them Model T e-collars. Super primitive, with just a few really high levels. Then in the 90s, we got remote transmitters, which was a huge leap. But today, we're talking about the Starship Enterprise. These things have over 100 levels, vibration, tones. They're designed for incredibly low-level communication. We're talking about levels so low you probably couldn't even feel it on your hand. The whole game is changed from punishment to communication. It's all about using the absolute lowest amount of pressure to get your dog's attention.
All right, so with that in mind, let's introduce our two main contenders. Because while they're both modern tools, they come from two pretty different philosophies. First up, you've got Dogtra. Think of them as the professional's choice. These things are built to be durable and dependable, like for the most demanding conditions you can imagine. This is the brand you see with serious amateurs, professional trainers, canine units. They're known for their power, which ranges from low to high, and just this really precise, solid feel. They're the workhorse. And then you have Educator, the tech innovator. Their whole mantra is being the most humane and effective trainer available. They use this unique blunt stimulation, we'll get into that in a second, to avoid that head-jerking reaction you sometimes see. They're generally lighter, packed with all these cool safety features, and, fun fact, they're proudly assembled in the USA.
Okay, so two different philosophies, but what does that actually mean in practice? What's the real difference in the tech? Well, it really comes down to the feel versus the function.
So let's talk about Educator's blunt stimulation. This is their big thing. The best way to think about it is like a TENS unit, the kind a physical therapist uses. It causes a muscle to contract. It's not a sharp, zappy feeling. The whole idea is to get a clean stimulation that gets the dog's attention without that sharp head jerk reflex. It's a completely different sensation. And what about when you're not using stimulation? Well, both have a vibration mode, but they're different. Dogtra has what they call a high-performance pager. It's a strong, clean vibration. Educator, on the other hand, has a tapping sensation that they say is way more intense than a normal pager. The idea is that it's another distinct way to communicate with your dog, almost like another word you can use.
Okay, enough with the theory. Let's get into a real feature face-off. This is where we put them head-to-head, and you can really see the nuts and bolts of what separates these two.
All right, let's look at the core specs for a couple of popular models, the Dogtra 1900S and the Educator Easy 900. Right off the bat, you see Dogtra has a bit more range, 3/4 of a mile versus a half mile. And look at the levels. Dogtra goes up to 127, while Educator has 100. Dogtra's power output is rated low to high, really built for those tougher, high-drive dogs. Educator is more low to medium, which is plenty for most dogs, even big ones. And here's a key difference. Dogtra is generally for dogs 35 pounds and up, while Educator has models that go down to 15 pounds, so you can already see them targeting slightly different users.
Now, safety is obviously a huge deal for both brands. Dogtra has a really smart feature where the constant button automatically shuts off after 12 seconds. It's a great failsafe. Educator takes a different approach. They have this patented lock and set function. So once you find your dog's perfect working level, you can literally lock it in. That means no more accidentally bumping the dial up to a higher level. Super clever.
What about warranties? Well, this is a pretty clear difference. Educator generally gives you a full 2-year warranty right out of the box. Dogtra offers a 1-year limited lifetime warranty. Now, both are great, but it's just something to keep in mind. And of course, always check the fine print for the specific model you're looking at. Okay, now for the fun stuff, the unique bells and whistles. Dogtra really leans into the ruggedness. We're talking IPX9K waterproof certification. That's like pressure washer proof. It's insane. Plus, they have a boosted constant button for emergencies. Educator, on the other hand, focuses more on user convenience. They have a remote-controlled nightlight on the collar, which is awesome, a beeper to help you find your remote if you drop it in the woods, and get this, the remote floats. How cool is that?
Phew, that is a lot of information, I know. So how in the world do you actually make a choice? The key thing to remember is that it's not about which one is best in a vacuum. It's about which one is best for you, and most importantly, for your dog. So let's create a little framework to help you decide. Before we go any further, we have to talk about the single most important concept in all of this, and it applies to any brand you choose. It's called finding the working level. What does that mean? It's the lowest possible level where your dog just barely perceives the stimulation. You're not looking for pain, not a yelp, not a jump. You're looking for a tiny, subtle sign, like an ear twitching or a slight turn of the head. That's it. It's like a silent tap on the shoulder to say, hey, listen to me. That is the foundation of modern e-collar training. So, with that in mind, here are the 3 questions you need to ask yourself. First, assess your dog. What's their temperament? Are they a super sensitive soul or a bit more on the stubborn, high-drive side? Second, consider your environment. Are you going to be out hunting in swamps, or are you mostly at the local park? And third, evaluate your own priorities. Is bomb-proof durability the most important thing, or are you more interested in those humane-focused tech features?
And that brings us to the big takeaway here. Who is Dogtra for? Well, it's ideal for professional trainers, canine handlers, people in really demanding outdoor conditions, folks who need a rugged, simple, powerful tool. And who is Educator for? It's fantastic for pet owners and trainers who really prioritize that humane tech, owners of dogs that might be more sensitive, and people who just love those extra user-friendly features like the nightlight. So, in the end, it all boils down to one question you have to ask yourself. Which of these tools best fits not just your dog's temperament, but also your training philosophy? Because there's no single right answer here. The best tool is always the one that helps you build a clearer, stronger, and more trusting relationship with your dog.